5 diving enthusiasts were exploring an underwater cave. On their way back, they were horrified to discover that one member of their 5-person team was missing. That person was later found lying motionless at the bottom of the cave at a depth of 54 meters, with a knife still lodged in his chest. This is the tragic Paganica cave diving incident we're going to talk about today. There is a cave located near Paganica Bay on the island of Solta in Croatia. Its entrance is located about 9 meters below the surface. The opening is roughly 2 meters in diameter. Descending from there, the passage begins with a relatively narrow chimney-like tunnel. After passing through it, there is a larger chamber on the left, with depths ranging from 21 to 36 meters. This is known as the shallow chamber. On the right side of the shallow chamber, there is another narrow passage, filled with thick layers of silt. Continuing downward, you'll reach another larger chamber, with depths between 36 and 57 meters. This is called the deep chamber. The overall structure of the cave may seem simple, but once you venture inside, the darkness, silt, and branching passages all become potentially deadly hazards. On the evening of September 10, 2002, 8 diving enthusiasts arrived at Paganica Bay by boat. Aside from the captain, 2 of them were experienced diving instructors, while the remaining 5 were recreational divers. They had heard that beneath the sea there was a deep cave that no one dared to enter, so they came here to look for it. Sure enough, one of the team members, Kaklis, managed to find the pitch-black entrance. Being cautious, he chose not to explore it alone and returned to the boat. News of the cave quickly spread among the group. Some suggested going down immediately to take a look, while others felt it was too dark and unsafe, preferring to wait until the next morning. After some debate, 4 members insisted on diving that very night. At around 9 p.m., Kaklis, the only one who knew the cave's location, led the 4 divers to the mysterious entrance, then turned back and swam toward the boat. Among the 4 who remained, the 2 experienced instructors took the lead, with the other 2 following behind. However, just a few minutes after descending, they realized the cave structure was extremely complex, and the water was almost completely still. Even the slightest movement stirred up silt, causing visibility to drop dramatically. For safety reasons, the 2 instructors decided to abort the dive and return to the open water above the cave to continue diving there. At around 10:30 p.m., the 4 divers returned to the boat. Up to this point, everything seemed normal, but soon after, they realized that Kaklis, who should have already been back, was nowhere to be found. Those on the boat assumed he had gone diving with the group, while those underwater believed he had already returned. When they realized Kaklis might be in trouble, one of the instructors immediately took others from the boat and went back into the water to search for him. They searched from the shallow area all the way to the cave's junction, but still found no trace of him. By then, nearly 2 hours had passed since Kaklis had entered the water, and in theory, his air supply should have already run out. Faced with the pitch-black depths beyond the junction, no one dared to venture further. They had no choice but to return to the boat and call the police. After hearing their account, the authorities believed that the chances of Kaklis surviving were extremely slim. At around 8 a.m. the next morning, 2 police officers finally arrived at the scene. However, the 7 people on the boat were not convinced of their professionalism. The officers' equipment was extremely basic. They hadn't even brought essential gear like dive lights or a guideline. Facing the captain and others' doubts, the 2 officers confidently assured them that they were professionals and there was nothing to worry about. They then borrowed diving equipment from those on board and plunged into the pitch-black underwater cave. Before long, the 2 officers successfully descended to the area near the junction. But just as they were about to continue deeper, something went wrong. The officer following behind, for reasons unknown, lost the guideline, accidentally entered the shallow chamber, and became disoriented. Meanwhile, the officer in front had no idea his partner was missing and continued searching toward the deeper section. It wasn't until he reached the deep chamber that he realized his teammate had not followed. Panic set in, causing him to lose the guideline as well. In the completely dark underwater cave, he could only grope around blindly. Fortunately, he managed to relocate the guideline. But after these back-to-back incidents, he was desperate to get out. Ignoring decompression procedures, he rapidly ascended to the surface. By the time he emerged, his face was pale. He was suffering from severe decompression sickness. The 7 people on the boat rushed him for medical treatment. Meanwhile, the other officer who had wandered into the shallow chamber still had not resurfaced. What had started as 1 missing person had now become 2. The police were shocked by the news. The next day, they dispatched a professional rescue team to the site. This time, the team was properly equipped. Not long after entering the water, they found the missing officer in the shallow chamber. He had died after running out of air. They then discovered Kaklis at a depth of 54 meters. But what they saw left the rescue team stunned. Kaklis' body was lying face up, his regulator had fallen from his mouth, and his diving mask was lying nearby. The rest of his gear was intact, except for one shocking detail. A dive knife was embedded in his chest. What had seemed like a diving accident instantly escalated into a criminal case. The police immediately sealed off the boat and took all 7 people on board back to the station as suspects for questioning. During the investigation, the police also used polygraph tests. The results showed that among the 4 who had initially entered the cave, 1 instructor and 1 diver exhibited clear physiological reactions to keywords such as blood and knife. Based on the available information, the police speculated that Keklis, despite being the one who discovered the cave, had refused to explore it, possibly due to a conflict with these 2 individuals. In the dark, high-pressure underwater environment, such a conflict could have escalated. This theory seemed reasonable until the data from Keklis' dive computer was retrieved. At that point, the entire investigation team fell into deep thought. The data showed that after separating from the 4 divers, Keklis returned to the boat. However, at 9:15 p.m., he entered the water again and headed straight for the cave. The exact reason remains unknown. On his way back, he repeatedly ascended and descended within the shallow chamber, then returned to the deep chamber, where he stayed near the top for several minutes. When his gas supply ran out, he began to freefall, eventually coming to rest at the bottom of the chamber at a depth of 54 meters. Based on his movement profile, Keklis likely died at around 9:59 p.m., near the top of the deep chamber. Meanwhile, the 4-person dive team had entered the cave at around 9 p.m., but due to the seemingly bottomless passage and extremely poor visibility, they aborted the dive early. After that, the 4 remained in the open diving area and did not return to the boat until around 10:30 p.m. This timeline closely matches the data recorded on their dive computers. At the time, it was nearly impossible to tamper with dive computer data. More importantly, the 4 divers confirmed that they remained within each other's line of sight the entire time, giving them solid alibis. If it wasn't the 4 divers, could it have been someone on the boat? During the lockdown of the vessel, police discovered several dark red stains on the deck that resembled blood. This raised the possibility that the crime scene was actually on the boat. However, this theory was soon ruled out. Suppose Keklis had returned to the boat at 9:05 p.m. and was killed there following a conflict. The 4 divers didn't return until 10:30 p.m., which means the perpetrator would have had only 85 minutes to descend to the deep chamber, dispose of the body, manipulate Keklis' dive computer data underwater, then decompress and return to the boat and remove all equipment. Decompression alone would have taken more than 90 minutes. Even if the killer ignored the risk of decompression sickness and managed to complete all of this, it still wouldn't match the situation on board. None of the people on the boat showed any symptoms of decompression sickness. Therefore, the theory that Keklis was killed on the boat was impossible. Just as the case reached a deadlock, forensic results from the body and other evidence came in. It turned out that the dark red stains on the boat were not blood, but red paint. The knife that caused Keklis' death was confirmed to be his own, and no other person's DNA or fingerprints were found on it. In addition, forensic analysis revealed that Keklis had an excessive blood alcohol level, and his lungs showed signs consistent with drowning-related pulmonary emphysema. In the end, the police could only reach one conclusion. After returning to the boat, Keklis changed his mind and dived back into the cave, descending all the way to the bottom of the deep chamber. On his way back, under the combined effects of alcohol and nitrogen narcosis, he became disoriented in the complex cave system and was eventually trapped near the top of the deep chamber. As he watched his gas supply run out, fear and despair took over in the confined darkness. Unable to face the agony of drowning, he took out his dive knife and attempted to end his life. But tragically, while the stab wound was fatal, it did not cause immediate death. The intense pain made him spit out his regulator. Under the combined effects of pain and drowning, Keklis slowly sank to the bottom of the cave, where he ultimately died. This conclusion explains all the impossibilities, but not the simplest question of all. Why? The case may be closed, but the doubts have never truly disappeared. Who do you think was the real killer?